Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica Johnson. I am an author, a podcast host, a business owner, and I'm so excited to share something that I think can serve you, whether you are dreaming of starting a podcast, launching a business, writing a book, moving to a new city, whatever dream you are facing right now, have on your heart. But maybe you're feeling a little bit of overwhelm around because it can feel so big at the outset. Today, I'm going to share with you what I think is like the secret sauce to making any big dream feel doable. Now, I think that through building all of these things, I've become a little bit of an expert at this, if I must say so. I feel like I've learned so much about how to take something that feels really big and hairy, and you're like, what do I do with this? And break it down so it feels like a dream that's actually doable, tangible, has small enough steps that you build momentum and get excited and don't get lost in like this overwhelm. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Make sure you subscribe if you want more videos like this, where we're going to be talking about the process of taking a dream to life, whatever it may be for you. So let's say that you have this big dream and you're stuck in that frustrating, overwhelming state of not knowing how to turn it into something that feels actually doable. The first thing I want you to do is get out a piece of paper or open up a Google Doc or a Word doc on your computer and write down every single step that you can think of right now that relates to that dream. So this is meant to be like not as much of a linear thing as a brain dump of just getting out all of these ideas that right now are all keeping a tab open in your brain and getting them into one place that you can actually work with them. So you're going to be taking them from these random ideas sitting in your brain, taking up headspace, and get them out onto a page where you can see them. Again, this doesn't have to be in order. It doesn't have to be, don't even overthink the steps. The whole point of this is taking everything that you can think of and just getting it on the page. So you can have big steps like build a website, and you can have small steps like post on Facebook or Instagram. All right, so get it all out there, and that is step number one. This is what I've always done. When I was thinking of writing a book, I didn't know every single step of the process, but I knew that some steps would look like writing the book, coming up with the book name, coming up with the book topic, getting an editor, promoting, maybe making a launch plan. So I just started jotting all of those steps down and giving them a place to go. The next step, step number 2, is you are going to take one of those steps that you just wrote down, and you're going to break it down even smaller into like 15-minute to 30-minute tasks. So let's say that you want to start a business, and right now, you know you need to come up with a business name, but you're not even sure, like that's a big step. There's actually a lot of mini steps involved in that. For example, with coming up with a business name, you may want to break it down to brainstorming a whole list of names, and that could be your task for one day. Another sub task in there might be checking your Secretary of State website to see if all of those names are available. Another little mini sub step could be narrowing down and deciding, okay, out of the ones that are available on your US government website, which one would you like the best? The next one could be like really finalizing and being like, let me check and make sure that a domain name is available that relates to this. So all of those are much smaller steps, but they're all things you could probably complete in about 15 to 30 minutes, each of them. So it starts to feel a little more doable, where instead of being like, okay, I have to choose a business name and I have no idea out of all the names in the world what business name I want, now you're looking at really doable small steps. Things like brainstorm a whole list. You know, you could spend 30 minutes doing that, where maybe you go and you write down names you like, you check out competitor websites, you start to see ideas, maybe you ask ChatGPT to help brainstorm with you based on a few words you like. So that feels like doable. You could do that in an afternoon with a nice iced coffee next to you. The next one is like you're narrowing down that list. You're seeing which of those names are actually viable, and you could actually name your business based on what's available on your state Secretary of State website. So that would be a much smaller step that, again, you're doing in 15 to 30 minutes. You know you can do that. All you're doing is taking that list of names and entering them into a website. So it feels a little bit more doable. The next day you're coming back and now you have your 10 names to choose between. So you're, again, just making things feel like small enough that you can actually take one of those mini steps at a time and conquer them bit by bit. Let's say a different dream. Let's say that you want to start a podcast but you're like, I don't know how to even go about this. There's the tech, there's coming up with the name, there's coming up with the topic. Like, how am I supposed to do this? Okay, so write down your list of all the steps that you can possibly think of for your dream. So maybe for a podcast, it's the things we mentioned. It's like come up with a name, come up with a topic, learn how to do the technology, maybe get an editor, choose a mic, things like that. Then you're going to choose one of those to break into smaller steps. That is your big step 2 that really makes this all feel much more doable. So let's take a step that is relatively simple, but like it could take some time, like choosing a microphone. I remember getting a little bit hung up on this when I started a podcast. I was like, how do I know which mic to use? I don't consider myself a particularly like techie person. So that step, even though it sounded simple, felt a little overwhelming to me. So what did I do? I followed this 2-step process. I jotted down all my ideas, and then step 2, I broke down one of my steps even smaller. So for choosing a mic, I broke it into 15 to 30 minute tasks, like number 1, researching microphones online, seeing what my options even were. Number 2, I'd come back the next day and I had my little smaller step and I would compare the names that I'd found and I'd go and look them up and see what their reviews were like. Little step number 3 is I would then choose from that list which mic I felt like fit my budget and what I was trying to achieve. And then step number 4 was actually purchasing that microphone. So again, hopefully you're seeing that each of these is like a 15 to 30 minute step where it feels very doable, but the whole purpose is it allows you to build momentum and to get traction going, where instead of feeling like for months you've been looking at this big audacious goal not getting anywhere, now you have your concrete steps where week by week you can actually move forward on your dream on each of the small steps that it involves. And let me tell you, that is kind of the nature of bringing a dream to life. It's not like one day you're sitting here dreaming about something and the next day it magically appears. It's actually weeks and months and years of these small steps where you just keep chipping away. So if we bring it full circle back to writing the book, for me, something that I realized is like each step you start to see the next. So if you're looking at your list now and you're like, I don't even know if these are the right things, or I know I'm forgetting something, I don't even know what the steps should be. The thing that I learned when writing a book is that if you just get going, the next step appears. So at the start, I didn't know what my book would be about, and that was a major hurdle to figure out a book idea. Once I did that though, my next step was to actually write the book. And I broke that down. Instead of feeling like I had to write a whole book, I broke it down where I would focus on writing one chapter or part of a chapter at a time. I looked at them like each chapter is just like kind of a long blog post. I can write blog posts. I've done that for years. So I'd focus on just looking at it like a blog post and getting that one blog post done. Over time, that added up, and then I could see my next step was to find an editor and someone who could help me polish it up. Now, I didn't know how to do that at the beginning. I didn't even know if I'd need one, but I could once again take that big step of finding an editor, and I'd break it into smaller steps. I'd go and research who might be a book editor. I would then go and look for reviews. I would reach out to them and see what their pricing was or their availability looked like. And then I would come back to the next step of actually choosing who resonated with me. And then the next step of working with them and getting my writing back edited. So each step began to appear as I just got into the process. And the same will be true for you. So if you have this big dream that feels a little bit intimidating right now, I really encourage you to spend a few minutes today writing down everything you possibly can, think of that relates to that dream? What are all the steps you can see in this moment? It's okay if it's not everything. The steps will appear as you go, but just in this moment, you'll have enough to work with right now. So step number 1, jot down everything. And then step number 2 is to make one of those things with little sub-steps. We have a lot of steps going on in this whole process, but break your big dream and all the steps it involves. Choose one of those steps and break it down into smaller steps that you can do in about 15 to 30 minutes. And each of those will be the thing you do for the day. Don't try and overwhelm yourself by doing multiple things all in one day. I really think there's something to be said as you get going for building momentum and just making this a practice that you build into your life every single day. You may have another job that you're working in, you may have small children. So the beauty of doing something for 15 to 30 minutes every day is that you're always making forward progress and you're making it a habit that you can just stick to no matter what else is going on in your daily life. And it adds up. That's the amazing thing, is you'll look back in a month and be like, wow, I tackled all the things I needed to get my podcast launched, or to come up with my book idea, or to start my business and get that idea going, that you never could have done if you just looked at this massive list at the outset without breaking things down. So that is the process that I have literally used for any kind of dream in my life, whether it's been a book, a podcast, moving to a new place. And, I spend half of the year in Europe, so figuring out visa regulations, anything I don't know how to do, I use this thing. I write down everything I can think of that I can see right now. I choose one of them, I break it down even further, and then I tackle it in 15 to 30 minute chunks day by day until I really start to build traction and to see the next steps appear. So let me know in the comments if this helps you and what your big dream is, or what step you're going to work on first. And if you want more videos like this that encourage you to chase those big dreams but actually make them feel conquerable, then make sure you subscribe. And thank you so much for being here.